Welcome to Insight with Moonshadow. I am Moonshadow, an integrative holistic therapist, intuitive shaman, interfaith minister, and chief evangelist with over 30 years of experience in the healing field in the US as well as internationally. My intention here with Insight with Moonshadow is to help you connect to your inner self and connecting you to the world around you. So now, today's topic is something that, again, I tend to really connect with current events, what's going on. And every episode of Insight with Moonshadow is not something, it's always something that's intuited, and it's something where my spirit brings in. Its spirit brings in I pick up the grand scheme of information to say, look, this is what needs to be spoken about right here, right now. And whether I intuit it beforehand and schedule Insight with Moonshadow, or I come in as last minute broadcast, it's always something that tends to be on the hub, on the cusp, on the in people's minds, or in the news, or something that people have thought about and haven't spoken about. So today's topic is society and the culture of hate. Now, hate is a word that I don't really use, because violence begets violence, and me being a spiritual warrior and also a martial arts as well, it's really not about violence. So being a warrior isn't really about being a warrior in the sense of having to be hateful or to fight. It's something that if you have no choice, that's when you fight. When you have no choice but to defend yourself, that's when you have to defend yourself. A lot of people have thought in different realms of thinking, where a good offense is a good defense, or a good defense is a good offense, whichever it may be. I believe in not feeding the wrong wolf. And any of you that have been around me and the show know about the parable, the story about the two wolves that live within us. You either feed the one that's ego and greed and violence, jealousy, or you feed the one that's about joy and peace and harmony and universal love and that, right? So I choose to feed the good wolf. Now, unfortunately, the problem with today, right now, September 26th of 2016, and I apologize, and I'm going to apologize ahead of time in case it gets a little emotional, because honestly, it's something where being an empath and being someone that works in the light and doesn't work in the dark, works the light side of the force, not the dark side. And all kidding aside, there is a light and dark to juju. There is a light and dark to energy. There is a light and dark to the world. So, and I've worked on both sides. I've worked with in the dark, and then in as far as nocturnal energy, as well as light. There's reasons for both, and it's not necessarily negative and positive in that I'm discussing right here. There's yin and yang and those concepts, but presently in society today, you check out the news for literally 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Watch the news for 5 minutes. We just had something happen in North Carolina. Someone that, again, if I'm going to use the label white, but I don't even believe in white, what white is, but someone that came to an African-American church for quite some time, shot people. And it's all over social media, right? And as Lance is saying, we need more people to feed the good wolf. And it's very, very true. All over social media, the news, media coverage, it's almost like they feed upon this culture of hate. Now let's go back. Let's rewind time a minute. Going back towards the 60s, and yeah, I'm showing my age. And I was a kid in the 60s. But going back in the 60s, it was about love and protest and make love, not war. And yes, there were drugs involved and all that other stuff as well. That was the shadow side of it. But back then, it really wasn't about segregation. It was about integration. It's about us being the same human tribe. Let's go back a little further. Let's go back to the 50s. You know, the 40s and the 50s, when segregation, when if you were a person of color, if you were African American at the time, or if you were Jewish, or if you were Irish, or if you were not of the majority, if you weren't of society's popular view, you were segregated. And I have to, you know, and Ariel, you're absolutely right. You can't appreciate the day without the night. And too much of either, you know, let's look at, and before getting back, let's look at Alaska. You go up to Alaska, they'll have 6 months of night and 6 months of day. Now that in itself is not along the rhythm. You know, I follow life and live life in sacred manner. So too much of night or too much of day would throw off your clock. It would throw off your balance. So that being said, this is something that we need to kind of look at, right? And of course, you hear everything in moderation. So that's a big part of it as well. So now, going back, so in the 50s, you couldn't even be a person of color. You couldn't be an African American and eat at the same table as someone that was white. Going back to even more hate, go back to Adolf Hitler. He wasn't accepted into a Jewish art school, and he considered people of the Jewish faith rats. They didn't matter. Part of our society also didn't consider slaves as being citizens. They were property. Also coming up as a topic will be gender identity and gender equality as well. That was one of the topics that were possibly going to be for today, but it's not. So now, going further, this has been society. Society has thought that they knew best. And now in 2016, it seems like we're going back to the 40s and 50s with segregation. If you are Latino, or you're African American, or if you're not of the majority, you're being hated on. If your orientation is different, sexual orientation is different, you're being hated upon. So looking at this from the grand scheme of things right now in 2016, it really upsets me personally, upsets me as a human being, and upsets me as a person that wants to shed light in the darkness. But this is what we're seeing today. That's fantastic. So now, so that being said, with this, and thank you for proving my point. The world has turned out to be a lot more about hate and intolerance than tolerance and actual balance. So all of this is happening. This is in the present. This is right now. So in the shadow of Absolutely. A lack of empathy. You're absolutely right, Michael. So now at this point, in the shadow of the world changing, the political landscape changing, and society changing, it has become a place where less people actually want to help each other. And this is one of the main reasons why the topic is what it is today. To actually take the effort out of your day to show hatred or bigotry on someone else when you don't really truly understand them, or you don't walk a mile in their shoes, or you don't take a look at what you're providing to the world, what you're doing in the world. It's unfortunate that we've come to this. So instead of evolving and going forward, we're going backward. And this is one of the reasons why this topic is today here in Inside Moonshadow is the topic. We see it all the time. It's becoming the new norm. And that's what I'm hoping, where it doesn't become the new norm. This is the unfortunate thing. In social media, you're seeing this. You've got trolls. You've got people that are just saying what they're saying for the sake of just causing a problem. So now, so Dawn Marie is saying it's so easy to be an ass other than finding positive things to say. Selfish people think their wants before they think their needs of all. It's true. And history is repeating itself. So you're absolutely right, Michael. So ultimately, we're looking at the unfortunate direction that society is going by. And history does repeat itself. So it's no big surprise that history repeats itself. But the fact is, what are you taking away from that? What are you learning from that? Where are you going from that? What wolf are you feeding? Are you actually helping people, or are you not? Are you part of the solution or part of the problem? And that's the whole thing, is that a lot of people do not want to learn the lesson. They just want to go by the status quo, whatever the status quo is. So they're just following. They're just following along. And that's unfortunate. If you're just following along, you're not really thinking what is best for you, what's best for your family, what's best for the world itself, then you are being part of the problem. You're not really part of the solution. So, do I welcome people that think for themselves? If you have some kind of argument, or if you have some kind of solution, or you have some kind of thought, some kind of opinion, that's great. But think it through. That's a big part of it. And there are a lot of people that are feeding into this culture of hate. And that makes it more difficult for the actual people that are actually trying to do good in the world, actually trying to make changes in the world, actually trying to make things better. So, without getting political, there are even people that have incited more hate. And these aren't people that we require or need to be leader of our country or leaders of the world. Do we need another dictator? Whoever the dictator is. Dictators eventually fall. Eventually, democracy is going to come up to the surface. It may take some time because not enough people are joining up and protesting or making changes. So, and welcome, Scarlett. And And that's the big part of it too, is that if we're looking at what's happening today, when you really look at it, if you are feeding more hate into the world, then how can it improve? How can it get better? Am I going to disrespect someone, whether it be someone that's a different gender or different orientation, someone that lives in a different country, whatever it may be? Why? Why do it? What is my purpose? Is it because I'm narrow-minded? Is it because I wasn't raised properly? Is it because that I just want to be hateful? Is it because I lack my own enlightenment? What's the reasoning? What's the reasoning for feeding this culture of hate, where people are going in and they just out of the blue, and some of these people, I'm going to say, being someone that's worked with the mentally ill, and I've worked with different populations of people. I've worked with the challenged, the mentally challenged, and the physically challenged, and the media challenged or the socially challenged, apparently, because now we have the world of trolls, but that doesn't help, right? But the thing is, some of these people are, they've had issues, and I get that. But ultimately, in the grand scheme of things, if we continue feeding this culture of hate, it's just going to get worse. It's just going to get worse and worse and worse. And it's all about really giving to make things better. All of us want to, have a better life. All of us want to provide better for our families. All of us want to be able to do that, right? So how can we do that? By filling our children's minds with hate. Very true. And Ariel is saying, if you have ants in the house, you don't purposefully leave food out for them. You don't. And this is why I don't feed into this culture of hate. This is why I don't feed hate into the world. You know what? If someone has an opinion, that's all fine and good. We're all allowed our opinions. We can think how we want. But for the world to go backwards, where there's two separate entrances for, whether it's gender or whether it's whatever it may be, how can you do that? This world was built on different people. Last I checked, and to be fair, we're all Africans if you really think about it in the grand scheme of things as well. Small actions ignored become big problems unavoidable. Exactly. And it's very, very true. It's very, very true. So if you are not really looking at the grand scheme of things, if you're not doing your best, and I'm not talking what is politically correct, because that's another thing. I believe that there is a level of over political correctness. Sometimes things are just wrong. And people they're afraid to rock the boat a bit. Now, should there be a revolution? Yeah, there should be. Should it be war? Well, I would hope it wouldn't have to go to that extent. And enough people stand forward and say, look, we don't want to live in a culture of hate. We don't want to live in this kind of world. It shouldn't be this violent. It doesn't make, right now. Yeah, and Michael is saying there's a line between being politically correct and just being a jerk. And yes, absolutely. And also, too, we're not looking at presently, 2016, we're not looking much different than a third world country now as far as looking at our citizens the way we do. Because there's a line being drawn. And I'm not making this up. You can't make this shit up. This is what's happening. Look at the news. It's happening right now, where there are people that are just putting out there. They're just putting out this level of thinking to destroy and poison other people. Now, I'm going to say the media is also part of it too. You want your demographic, you want people to watch your program. So they may not be making the news, but they're reporting the news, and not not all media is responsible enough to say, hey, you can make changes. Now, also too, this is also on the eve of the Global Citizen Festival, which was just, within the last 48 hours. Now, there's an example of people actually feeding the culture of unity. And it's all over the world. A lot of people are joining in to be global citizens and realizing that the problem is not just the United States. It's global. It's everywhere. And Michael is saying here, like the old saying goes, if it bleeds, it leads in the media. And I can't blame you. Well, that was held on, I believe it was MSNBC. I think it was on, but I also put it on my Twitter feed as well. And it was in Central Park in New York. And it was really cool. And if you get the chance to see it, to look at it, definitely do. It's something they're looking at. They're looking at between poverty, between issues of women's rights, education, you name it, hunger, you name it. And there are all different types. Hey, Mark, what's going on, man? Good to see you. So you're looking at people from all over, different faiths, different walks of life, different parts of the planet joining together to feed not a culture of hate, but a culture of unity. Now, I'm not going to be so earthy crunchy or so rainbow-like to say that it doesn't exist. This is why this topic is being discussed today. I would love to be able to say that this is a thing of the past, but it's not. It's come to the point where you cannot broadcast on social media without someone coming in and being a douche. Why? For attention? Why? Because they don't know any better? They're not enlightened? Who knows? And I can tell you, I've had some conversations and discussions with people that I did not necessarily agree with their lifestyle or their thoughts or their opinions. But you know what? We had a logical conversation. And now, again, if you really think about it, looking at society as a whole, society has not always made the right decisions. The majority has not always made the right decisions. The majority has not always been the real right way to go. Now, I myself, I'm an independent politically because I will vote for whoever is right for the job. I look at it as a job application. I don't look at it as it from agendas or anything like that. I would rather speak for the common good any day. Call me whatever. But when you're that high in your ivory tower, you need a lot of people to help you get there. You need people to hold the ladder, right? If you think about it, you need people to hold the ladder. And if no one's holding the ladder, it's going to be a pretty big fall from way up in your ivory tower, Mr. CEO of whatever. Right? Now, Michael's also saying the founders were worried about that the tyranny of the majority over the minority. This is part of the reason why the U.S. became the U.S. Let's face the facts here, people. They didn't want England to be ruling our choices, our ways of life. So they said, the hell with this, we're doing something else. They were part of a resistance. They were part of a revolution. But guess what? It came back, right? It came back. So now what does society do? They came back and they started to say, okay, well, you know what? We don't really want you thinking for yourselves. We're going to have to feed you what you need to think and what you need to do. We need to kind of tell you how to live a little bit. And it's gotten worse, to the point where now, for me to even bring up the fact that we are resorting to turning into a culture of hate, I don't think in the past few years I've mentioned the word hate this much. You know? And thank you for that. Thank you for that, Mark. And honestly, this is the thing. If we don't talk about it, if it's not discussed, if we don't make things happen, if we don't make things change, then they're going to stay the same. The wrong people are going to do damage. We're going to have a lot more North Carolinas. We're going to have a lot more atrocities that have happened. So let's think about this. Which way is the right way? It's not about alliances to political factions. It's about what's right. It's about what is good to do. You know? It's about what's right for us as a whole. You know? And it's true. We need to talk to each other, not at each other. And this is the problem. This is why, this is in the exact reason why society is what it is. I'm a tribal person, and I believe in having a tribe. I believe we're all part of the same tribe. And I believe in working together. I believe in being part of the positive change, making the world the best place we can make it. Of course, everyone has their bad days. Of course, there's wars here and there. Of course, things happen. But the point is, what is the norm? Is the norm going to be hate crimes? Are we going to have to, is it going to be some kind of apocalypse where we're going to have to, constantly be in defense of ourselves, of our rights, of our way of life? Or are we going to be able to actually raise our families, live a decent life? And this is really what's important. This is really why this discussion is bringing up. This is why this topic is here today on my show, because people aren't thinking fully. At least not everybody. I can't say everybody. There's a small sample that actually want to do the right thing. I'm not saying because they agree with me or not agree with me. I'm saying they want what's right, whatever that is. And you could be on both sides of the fence politically. You could be of different opinion and still want to do the right thing because you know what's right. Now think on that. It's not either side. It's about finding the middle, that point where we can all get along, that point where the world is a safe place, because we are a hop, skip, and a jump away from being just as violent as a third world country. And I shit you not, it sure looks that way. We no longer have to worry about terrorists from other countries coming in. We've got homegrown terrorists happening. And this is all, again, feeding about hate. It's feeding about the culture of hate. It's not about, us doing what, making life the best it can be. It's quite the opposite. And there's a small handful of people, light workers, light bringers. There are, certain public figures that want to make the world a better place. You have, you have celebrities and people that, on the front lines, people that do social work, people that work in inner cities, work in urban communities to make sure that people are okay. You have movements now, like, Black Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter, all that, and I agree with that. But I want to say all lives matter. Life matters. Life matters. And this is the problem. When we have the world of hate the way it is, the culture of hate the way it is, the fact that you can't walk down a street without thinking that you're going to be profiled one way or the other, doesn't matter what color you are, that means this world is not going in the right direction. Now, again, this is not just my opinion. Look at the news. Watch the news. Watch the news for 10 minutes. Over the last few months, we've had so many atrocities in the last few months that it's been outrageous. So this is part of it. This is part of the grand scheme. What do you want to paint? How do you want to paint the world? What color would you paint the world? Are you thriving on this hateful propaganda? Do you like it? Do you like living the world this way? Do you want to be able to have to walk out your door armed because, God forbid, your next door neighbor may be crazy, or they may hate people of color, or they may hate Jews, or they may hate, Protestants, or whatever? We shouldn't have to live in a world that way. As much as I believe that you should bear arms and you should protect your family, and I believe that wholeheartedly, but it shouldn't have to be an everyday thing. It shouldn't have to be something where you have to be fearful. And I try not to be fearful of anything or anyone. But this is part of it. This is part of it. You can go to, I'm sure that you can walk into any church service and they're talking about bringing love instead of hatred. I'm sure politically you have all kinds of people that are trying to say, look, we all got to get along. Why is this happening? You have people inciting violence for no apparent reason. Really no apparent reason. Because if you really think about it in the grand scheme of things, it's why? Why should I hate you because I don't understand you? Why should I hate you because you're a different color? Why should I hate you because you're a different faith? Why should I hate you at all? For me to look good? Doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't make sense. It's like I just keep on asking the question, why? So this is one of the reasons why I enjoy bringing these conversations into live media. So all of us can talk about it. All of us can hopefully make a change. All of us can make a difference. Whether it's donating some money or volunteering or making the right decision when you vote. And that aside, I definitely say vote. Be a discerning voter. look at the issues and vote appropriately. Really think about it. Think about the grand scheme of things. Be mindful of things. Be mindful of what's going on. Be mindful of your decisions that you're making. Because that's part of the problem, is that people aren't mindful enough to really say, well, you know what? I don't like what's going on, so I'm not going to vote. Or I don't like what's going on, so I'm just going to stick my head in the sand. That's how we turn into a culture of hate. Because the minority of people that are not thinking are turning into and changing and manipulating the culture to something where it doesn't belong or doesn't need to be. So that's a big part of it. And you've seen it here tonight. Here today, you saw it. You saw a perfect example. You know? And honestly, see what happens. Someone had an opinion. Apparently what I had to say or what I look like was an issue. But guess what? I'm not going to stoop down to that level. Not doing it. I'm not going to feed that wolf, or feed that person's wolf for that matter, because it's not for me. And thank you for that, Ariel. And Ariel's also saying here that even if you don't vote for the presidency, you still can vote for who's in Congress. And I would say, I would also invite and challenge you to vote for even for the presidency, because your voice matters. Your voice really matters. Thank you, Minnie. And welcome. Because ultimately, this is really, really important. Oh, is that you? Sometimes you guys change names so much, and I don't know who it is, but welcome. But honestly, this is really the thing, you know, is that if we're all mindful and if we all do the right thing, and I'm not talking the right thing because it's politically correct. I'm not talking about the right thing because everyone else is doing it. I'm talking about the right thing that gravitates in you, deep inside you, in your soul. What is it? What is the right thing for you? What is the right thing? Because I don't care if 1,000 people tell me that stomping on someone is the right thing to do. It's not going to be the right thing for me. So with what's going on today, with society as it is today, this is something where we need to really think about it. What do you put in? You know, what decisions are you making? You know, what energy are you putting out there? And what energy is coming back? That's no different than, you know, you're cooking a meal and you're putting poison in it. Do you want to poison your life? Do you want to poison yourself? Do you want to poison society? Do you want to poison your children? Do you want to teach them to hate too? This is also happening around the world. There are cultures that are raising children to hate. I don't agree with that either. I'm not against any culture, but raise a child properly to be the best person they can be, right? We shouldn't have to be at war all the time. And hate breeds more hate. Violence breeds more violence. When is it going to stop? When is it going to end? When? And as you know, humanity destroys itself quite often. Society destroys itself quite often. Why? Because of ego, because of greed, because I need to make money. I need to make money, and I don't care who I have to step on to do that. Or I don't care if it costs me, 5 cents to make something. I'm going to charge, 500% of something just because. Now, granted, all of us deserve a good life. All of us do. All of us deserve to be able to pay bills. All of us deserve to be able to walk or wake up with a smile on our face, or wake up and not have to worry or be concerned about getting health coverage or anything like that. And I know I'm sounding very political at the moment, and I apologize, maybe a little bit, maybe. But this is something that needs to be spoken about. Yeah, maybe apologetic. Because no one's talking about it. Not enough people are talking about it. So this is why I bring it up. It's controversial. Oh, well, it has to be said. And society is continuously changing. But the problem is you have people that are privileged and feel that they're entitled, and they do not want changes in a different way. They want their own piece of the pie, and they can care less about sharing. And that's what they want to do. But the point is, they're going to have no pie at the end of the day if not enough people are baking pies. There will be no society left. Now, there are people that think that deporting all the immigrants will make America great. Who's going to mow your lawn? Who is going to take care of, who's going to clean your house? Who's going to do that stuff? Because obviously, and we are a nation of immigrants. That's the sad part of it all, is that we are. Unless you're indigenous from this country or this world, you really, technically. Well, see, there you go. Even Steve Jobs was an immigrant. Go fig, right? So this is part of it. It's a big part of it. So looking at this from the grand scheme of things, what you do matters. What you say matters. How you think matters. What you put into the world matters. Because I can guarantee anybody that is feeding this seemingly new culture of hate, or this new culture of society, I'm sure that they don't want to be hated on. But they're not thinking about that part, because they're the one with the stick, right? Until they get poked with a stick, and then all of a sudden it's different. When it's in your backyard, then it's different. When you're the one that's being oppressed upon, then it's different. And that is the reason why this topic is here today. That is the reason why it needs to be changed. This is why we need to change the paradigm of what's happening in the world today. It's the middle. It's the balance. There's no need to be hating on people. There's no need to take an automatic weapon and walk into a church. And I'm not saying, I don't know all the details of North Carolina, so I'm not saying it was an automatic weapon. Just don't hold me on that. But I'm just saying I'm thinking hypothetically here, I'm talking hypothetically here, is to walk into a place, a peaceful place, where people are gathered. And just because they don't believe what you believe in, to shoot people down, or to cause violence, or explode a bomb. What good or what purpose is it serving? What is it doing? What kind of change are you making? What's feeding you? What's making you want to do these things or say these things? To make yourself look important? Get you 15 minutes of fame? What is it? So for the sake of sounding earthy crunchy, which I do all the time anyway, what's the purpose? What's the end result of causing more hate in the world? What is it going to do? What kind of end result will it accomplish? Do you want to look over your shoulder and look over your back all the time? If that's the way you want to live, well, then we're leaning and we're going in that direction. So this is why I come back to the sacred, to the sacred way of living. Everyone has a job to do. Everyone has energy to serve or energy to put in. We all have ways to make things better. Yeah. And Ariel's saying, you think the only people who are people are the people who look and think like you, right? And that's so far from the truth, because ultimately, I believe it was, I can't even say who it was because I'm not positive on that. So I'm not going to say something I don't know. But there was an old quote that I remember saying, if you not cut me, do I not bleed? So I forget who that was, but we are a lot more the same than different. Even with DNA, there's one little small, tiny strand of DNA that puts together, that makes us all related. Whether you be a hater or a lover, whether you be a Republican or a Democrat, whether you be black or white, whether you be a Catholic or Muslim. So think about this. We are more alike than different. And yes, I've had topics of cultural diversity. I have had different topics in this show regarding why getting along would be better than being apart or ripping each other apart. But this is part of it. Society is what we make of it. And right now, the wrong people are feeding society. It's not about social caste, because I've learned a lot of things from different people, whether they were millionaires. I've spoken and worked with millionaires, as well as people that were so poor they carried a cardboard sign on the side of the road. And I've learned from both. There were lessons with both. There's a history and a story in both. And Ariel is saying it well. Let's be a culture of support, encouragement, compassion, and grace. Now, granted, there will always be those two wolves. And that's a fact. There will always be those two wolves. But you still have a conscious decision of making that decision that you make on which wolf to feed, on what to do. What are you going to choose? What are you going to feed into the world? Are you going to feed more hate? You're going to feed, and I'm not saying to start singing, don't pick up a guitar and start doing peaceful protests if it's not within your wheelhouse. I'm not saying you have to do that. You don't have to join a revolution or some kind of resistance. You don't have to all of a sudden become super political and have a cause or a movement. But don't feed into the crap either. There's an old saying, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. Well, I would rather people talk and speak up for themselves. But if you're just going to feed the hate, if you're going to feed the other people or put people in power that don't belong there, do me a favor, don't. Because I have to live here too. You have to live here. So all of us need to kind of look at how the world is. So don't feed into it. And there are a lot of people that are trying to do good. They're trying to really make the world a better place. You know, and it is all about balance. Finding that balance between who you are, that's a big part of it. It's all about balance. And, you know, I'll be the first one to say, you know, I don't always have a good day. Who does? But the point is finding the balance, is doing what you feel is the best thing to do for you and all, because feeding more crap into what's going on isn't going to help. And we are a multicultural world. We are a global family. Yes, I said global family. And I say that even to the person that didn't like my face. We're related, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to put it. But if you really, really think about it, why even why even go there? It's no different than just why. I don't know. It's to bring hate into it, to bring hate into society the way it is. I am not really happy about what's happening right now. There's not much, you know. I do what I can to make the world a better place, and a lot of people here try to do what they can to make the world a better place. And it starts at home. Don't teach your kids how to be bigots. Don't teach your children intolerance. Yeah, you should defend yourself, but when you have to, don't, you know, do what you can to make your community a better place. I probably wouldn't be very good as president. Why? Because a whole lot of people would want me dead really fast. I can tell you that right now. But again, you know, this is a big part of it, is we are all part of the same tribe. And the sooner we see that, the more we realize that what I need and what I want is no different than what you want and what you need. Because most of us want a decent life. Most of us want to be able to raise our children in a world where I don't have to worry about where they are or what they're doing. I don't want to have to live in a world where, you know, just going into a city or going to grab a bite to eat or going to church is dangerous, or my family might be dead in a matter of minutes because somebody comes in with an agenda. So this is all, you know, and I apologize for possibly bopping around. I try to stay on topic here today. But ultimately, this is what it boils down to. This is what it boils down to. How do you want the world to be? What do you want the world to be? What do you want to see in the next 5 years, next 10 years? And thank you for that. I appreciate all the support. I really do. But if you really, really think of it, you know, if you really, really think of this now, like what do you want the world to be like in the next few months, in the next few years? Do you want to be able to retire? Do you want to be able to live a decent life? Do you want to be able to be healthy? Do you want to still have your full capacity, your full mind? All of this makes a difference and all this matters. But if you're making the wrong decisions and if you're feeding the world negativity, then how can you have a decent life? It's common sense, which is unfortunately uncommon. If you don't like what's going on, then why feed negativity into it? Talk about it. Make changes. Start small. But do something and that's major. So, in summary, looking at this, looking at the news for 5 minutes, you see the damage, you see what's going on. And I'm just here to bring it to light, to help at least put it out there, open the discussion, open the conversation for people to look and see what's going on and do things just because, positive things just because. Like Michael's suggesting, random acts of kindness. Absolutely. Give to others, pay it forward. Absolutely. Because all these things matter. And again, I'm not trying to be politically correct. I am not trying to say that you need to be a particular gender, or you need to be a particular culture, or you need to be a particular political affiliation. It's not about that. It's not about the labels. It's not about the lines. It's not about the colors. It's about doing the right thing. It's about doing the right thing, because I'm sure you'd want people to be kind to you. So don't be unkind to them. I'm sure you'd want people to give you respect. So don't be disrespectful to them. I'm sure you'd want somebody to help you out and give you support if you needed it. So don't be unsupportive to others. Did it take for me to have to go live and say this? No. I'm just reminding people. That's all I'm doing. If you want something to change, then be the change. Be the light, or be the mirror that reflects positive change. But do something. I consider myself a global citizen because of it. It's not just my culture, it's all cultures. We all have to take care of each other, one way, shape, or form. And this is all what it boils down to, everyone. This is all that really matters. Think about what you're going to say. Think about what you're going to do. Think about how you want the world to be. Whether you're impulsive or whether you plan things through, think of the big picture, because that really matters. So I'm going to close out the show on that note. And I want to thank all of you for spending time with me here on Insight with Moonshadow. You guys make it here every week, whether platforms change, whether, stuff comes down the road, you guys are there. And I appreciate all the support. I appreciate all of the well wishes. I support all the retweets and putting, and everything that you guys do, your compassion and kindness and putting out there and helping me put out the message. So I really appreciate all of that. And it's because of you guys that you guys inspire me to continue doing this every week and commit to this every week, despite adversity and the weirdness and the challenges and equipment and all that. I really, really appreciate, and I really, really am appreciative, and I care deeply for all of you for being as supportive as you guys are. And of course, if you find a connection, if you want to ask questions, if you want to connect and say, hey, I want to know more, or I want to, how can I help, or how can I be part of this, or whatever it may be, please support and follow and subscribe to me and my social media. You can also go to phoenixrisinghealingarts.com or moonphoenixrising.com as well. You can follow me on my YouTube channel. You can get all my shows and all my replays there, as well as the ongoing playlist here in Fire Talk. So on that note, as I say every week, be strong, be amazing, be you. See you next week, and thank you so much.